Hi there, Altenew friends, welcome back. You don't need years of expertise and practice to make beautiful botanical art. In this card making tutorial, I'll share 3 simple drawing techniques you'll need for perfect botanical art. In order to make our botanical art card, I figured the most suitable stamp set is from the November 2022 stamp release. And that is the Botanical Illustrations Stamp and Die Bundle. The complete bundle includes the layering stencil that colors in the outline images just as shown on the die set. The thing I love the most about this stamp set is the figure reference stamp images. I'll definitely be using these sentiment type stamps on future projects. But for my card making tutorial today, I want to make a card similar to this one, showing really easy details you can add to your stamped images for that black and white botanical art, botanical illustration type feel. Off camera, I stamped a few of the images onto spicy yogurt cardstock. And onto this panel of spicy yogurt cardstock, I stamped some of the images with permanent black crisp ink. The most important item you'll need for this card is the Altenew fine liner pen set. These fine liner nibs come in a variety of sizes, and from fine to bold we have 005 to the brush nib. And before we start illustrating on top of the stamped images, I'm going to look for the nib that closely represents the line weight of the stamped images themselves. So off to the side, I'm doing quick lines just to see which one is going to give me the closest line weight. And then of course the brush nib is going to give you a variable weight. We'll use this in a later part of this video. Now for me and the way I stamped my images, I find that the 02 line weight closely replicates the line weight found within the stamped images. It's going to depend on how hard you press on your acrylic block or your stamp positioning tool. So I find that the 02 weight works for how these images came out on my spicy yogurt cardstock. So now we can focus on adding details to these 4 stamped images for some botanical art. So the challenge of working in a single color such as black in the fine liner pen set is achieving a wide range of values. So making your floral elements lighter than your foliage elements helps distinguish and bring some dimension to your scene. So with your nib and pen of choice, we'll start making contour lines as a very basic way to add some depth and dimension within your floral elements. Now first off, the key is to start really light and add details as you go throughout your flower. And the nice thing about the Botanical Illustration stamp set is that it already gives you a starting point on where to add depth, and you just simply need to follow the contours or these other lines right here found within your image to add some detailing. So what I'm doing is starting at the very base of each petal and creating a series of short lines that follows the curvature and the contour of the petal. So for example, this one goes in this direction, this one folds out in this direction, and I'm simply adding lines to accentuate that curvature. And essentially we're creating depth at the base of each petal. And after adding the contour lines on the base of each petal, now we can start adding them towards the tips or around the midpoints of the petals. And this will help accentuate the curves of the petals. And again, all I'm doing is supplementing the lines that already exist by creating short strokes. You can always add more details later. Again, it's always easier to add details than to remove them. And of course, to compare the previous image, you can see that there's a little bit more depth within the base of the petals. And all we did was add a series of lines to create an illusion of shadows. So again, these are called contour lines on this flower. And to add a little bit of textural flair on this flower, we can do a variation of stippling by creating contour dots on this flower. So using the lines that we used before, we can add little trailing dots that follow the direction of the lines that we already made. So for example here, this line curves like so, in this crescent shape. So I'm just going to add 2 or 3 dots to either side. And these dots again will follow the curvature of the petal. What has worked best for me is to use uniformly spaced dots throughout your image. In this way, the contour dots or the stippling looks a little bit more deliberate. And again, just as a reminder, you don't need to fill in the entire image. It's better to stop early than get ahead of yourself and you end up with a flower that's a little bit too dark in comparison to your foliage. For now, I'm going to stop filling in this flower on the left and start working on the foliage elements, just so I get an idea of how dark I want to go in comparison to my flower. In order to do that, I'm going to switch from the 02 fine liner pen to the brush nib, because I'm going to fill in very large solid areas on these leaves. The trick to coloring in leaves is knowing where your highlights are, but also creating areas of darkness and depth that will nicely contrast your floral elements. So I'm going to start filling in the stem layer with the brush nib, and I'm making sure to leave very small areas of highlights within the stem, just so that it's not a solid black piece on my image. And then when filling in veins of the leaves, I start at the bottom vein and make a sort of triangle, leaving an area of highlight below the next vein. And then I'll repeat this up one side of the leaf, making little triangles that follow the contour of the leaf, making solid contours that go all the way to the edge of the leaf. And again, I'm leaving areas of highlight before the next vein, and I'm not going all the way to the edge of my leaf outline. I'll repeat this on the other side. And one thing you'll notice too is I left an area for the central vein highlight, so I didn't go all the way to the edge of the center vein outline when filling in my images. However, then on the other side, I'll completely fill in the bottom vein and work my way up, again creating these little triangles with the brush nib, leaving areas of highlights just as indicated before. So using the brush nib on the Altenew fine liner pen set enables you to add large blocks of contour and color. And then we can supplement this image with our finer pen, the 02 that we were using earlier, to fill in some of these darker areas. So we'll use a combination of contour lines and dots. And again, I'm following the curvature of the vein that we previously made before and following it with a series of dots. So now you can see with the combination of solid color blocking, contour lines, and a little bit of dot work or stippling, we can really accentuate the veining that's found within this leaf and mirror that throughout the rest of the foliage. And when these lighter flowers sit on top of these darker leaves, you'll get a nice range of contrast. Now that you're well equipped with knowing the 3 types of contour lines you can easily add to your Altenew floral images, I will speed through this segment and show you the final coloring result before I start die cutting and assembling our card. So after adding all my final touches to my Botanical Art panel, I'll use the Coordinating Botanical Illustrations die set to cut out my 4 images. Here are all my die cut elements. I also made a quick black frame using strips of black cardstock. I didn't use a die for this one. And the rough dimensions of this are 3 3/4 by 4.5. And I will arrange all of my botanical elements on top of this frame. I also already have a folded note card base with a panel of the spicy yogurt cardstock glued on top. Now I can begin arranging my floral elements on top of my card. I foam mounted my frame onto the center of my folded note card base with the spicy yogurt cardstock panel on the back. After foam mounting and arranging my flowers within the frame, I also added my stamped sentiment. This sentiment also comes from the Botanical Illustration stamp set. And then I'll finish this card with a few heavy applications of jet black ink spray with an Altenew water brush. And I'll do the same with pure white ink spray, again with an Altenew water brush. So this Botanical Art inspired card uses 3 elements of drawing to achieve a range of value using black ink. So we covered contour lines, dot stippling, and blocks of color to add detailing to your next Altenew floral handmade card. My series encourages you to shop your existing Altenew stash and rekindle their love with newer releases. Perfect Pairings with Jaycee airs on the Altenew channel every 2nd and 4th Sunday of the month. Please make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you so much for tuning in to this perfect pairing episode with me, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hello there! Are you still looking for project ideas and card making inspirations? Well, if you are, look no further. We have tons here at the Altenew YouTube channel. You can also subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that we do upload. To help keep your creative juices flowing, we have a couple more videos that you can watch here too. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again really, really soon. Bye-bye.